All right, everyone. This is the board four matchup, round one, between Rob Hampton of New Mexico and Adin Umara of Colorado. Um, so after we looked at the bottom three boards, we saw that New Mexico had a 2-1 lead. Um, Once again, that's not. I don't remember if that's chronological when they came in or not, but do remember that the last two boards to finish were first and second. So let's go to the game. So just like the last game we looked at, it's the birds opening, and I don't think I've ever seen Rob play anything besides that. Um, and because Aiden didn't fianchetto his kingside bishop, Robert um, fianchettoed his queenside bishop, and it's typical in birds openings in the repertoire. Um, so Aiden decides to fianchetto his queenside bishop, and because he didn't play the knight to c6, Robert holds his bishop at e2. Actually, in the quick tournament the next day, I played Robert, and I played knight c6, and without any hesitation, he pinned it with that bishop. So, um, all right, and you see a pretty typical maneuver here, the queen e1, which we saw in the last game, intended for h4 eventually. And um, as I stated earlier in the last video, it's pretty common to play d3 and e4. This is all fairly standard bird stuff, I think. Um, and you notice instead of being kettling to take care of to neutralize the dark squared bishops, Aiden plays bishop f6, which I actually think this is a fairly good system because you don't create a, a target on g6 for um, for white to hit really, and you're still able to neutralize white's best piece in this particular setup. You notice that the bishop, um, controls all these squares, and also um, they're very key dark squares that it hits in the center. So, but here white has no choice but to take. Aiden plays g takes, which looks pretty dangerous for Hampton. We see that the knight is on the rim right now, but if it can get to f5, it once again hits some pretty nice squares here. So um, it's not all that bad in the end, potentially. So Robert prevents that and plays g4. Um, I've said it a lot of times that I'm very hesitant to move move pawns like this on my king side when you see that Aiden's pawns on f7 and g7, or excuse me, f7 and f6 are doubled, and so he's usually when you see a disturbed pawn structure over there, um, they're not going to castle that way. So, you know, clearly White's king is going to be the only king on this side of the board. And by moving these pawns, he's creating a lot of weaknesses. You see that these three, F3, G3, and H4, the weaknesses there were created by pawn movement. Um, it wouldn't be that bad to advance these pawns if it could hold, but um, it's kind of hard to look so far in the future to hold. Usually, in decisions like this, you need to rely on some sort of intuition or rules. I mean, that's kind of why chess rules are why people hang on to them. Is it just makes thinking about these types of positions easier. Granted, Robert has loads more experience in the bird than I do, but I just feel based on principle, it's G4 is a tough move to sell me on. Um, so, um, as expected, Adin castles on, and Queen H4. So he does, get to play Queen H4 with tempo, but um, is it really all that useful of a move right now? I mean, honestly, going back a few moves, instead of playing G4, I mean, maybe tempting to play D4. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense now because after something like D4, and if you open the D file, you know, the rook bears down on it after the long castle. So I don't think that that's necessarily the way to go. Also, black's going to get his knight to a good square. Um, I don't know if there is per se a move, but um, I think you have to create some active play on the queen side. Um, let's see. I mean, you can just play a4 here with the idea of playing, let's say castle long, then you automatically can play a5 the next move. And, if, let's say, knight f5, um, you can create an open file for your rook to go down. And sure, the knight's hitting these squares right now, g3, h4, um, e3, but at least right now the queen is defending them, and so black isn't really doing a whole lot with him. And if necessary in the future, can always play g4 as a fallback move. But another idea might be if you're really trying to defend, is to play knight h2 um, and um, you know, bishop g4, for example, um, or I mean, I don't know if you're really that bent on taking care of the knight outpost, um, but yeah, I just think that g4 is a scary move.